Could the 10th emotion that might actually appear in Inside Out 2 be the dreaded and cruel distress? When we see Riley leaving her friends behind and heading towards the group led by the popular girl, we see that decision was entirely influenced by anxiety, meaning that despite Riley making a brutal mistake, she feels bad about doing it. We're sure that at that moment, Riley's mind and heart were in a very deep conflict, as she herself knew that what she was doing was wrong, but still, she did it.
I know change is scary. Let's do this.
Hey, Riley!
But we need new friends or we'll be totally alone in high school.
All this context and many other details perceived in the movie trailer suggest that yes, a 10th emotion could appear in the most anticipated Disney film of the year. And more than that, it could be the purest representation of Riley's suffering personified in a single very dark emotion. Distress. Despite many people thinking that the only emotion opposite to joy is sadness, the truth is that there are other emotions that play the same role and are even more terrible and damaging than sadness. And undoubtedly, the most dangerous and powerful of all is distress. Distress is a kind of feeling that every human being, sooner or later, will end up experiencing. The worst part is that it's actually a sensation that gathers everything that can harm a person's mind into one form. For example, when someone feels distress, they are mainly motivated by two emotions, anxiety and sadness, which are exactly two of the emotions inhabiting Riley's mind control center. And not only that, sadness was an emotion with great prominence in the first movie, while in the second movie, we all know that anxiety will be the great emotional highlight, as it became clear and evident since the first teaser of the movie released by Disney. So, the only way to see Riley develop the emotion of distress within herself would be if sadness and anxiety started working together and at some point, the two emotions merged and ended up becoming one single emotion. And unfortunately, this is not impossible to happen, as we can see this in some details of the Inside Out trailers. Discouragement. When we remember Riley in the first Inside Out movie, we realize that one of the things that most affected the girl's mind in her move to San Francisco was the fact that she felt very sad and demotivated to be going to a place where she would be far away from her friends and everything she knew and liked. So when she starts seeing various details in the city that she simply hates, gradually her mind, with the absence of joy, begins to direct the girl to make the decision to run away from home and go back to Minnesota. And at that moment, if only joy had been sucked out of Riley's mind and sadness was still with the other three emotions, Riley's mind would probably have been even more disturbed, which would have made the owner of emotions become demotivated even faster, and who knows, try to run away much earlier. But now, in the second movie, we see that now that the old emotions have been expelled by anxiety, we see that this can really happen once again. That's because, even if sadness isn't there, anxiety takes its place and plays the role of the emotion that can lead Riley to make decisions that will harm her life and that can make the girl completely lonely, which would leave the teenager completely discouraged and demotivated. However, there is an even bigger problem in all of this. Now that Riley is competing in bigger leagues, what she needs most is encouragement and motivation to play her matches well. And with anxiety's very wrong attitudes, this will end up leading Riley to be an increasingly unfocused athlete, which can greatly harm her life as a whole, which would lead Riley to feel the feeling of distress even stronger within her. Insomnia. Furthermore, we can see that Riley at a certain point in the movie will have trouble sleeping. This is clear from the girl's face that she will surely have a terrible night's sleep. Many people have no idea, but insomnia is one of the most present characteristics in people who suffer from the emotion of distress in their mind. If this is the case, this will be one of the symptoms that Riley may already be developing in this new emotion gradually, which will only increase more and more, especially with the actions that anxiety will take with the intention of making the girl more popular and having new friends, which is totally related to another sensation that sooner or later will end up resulting in distress, suffering. As we discussed earlier, Riley will take very bad actions throughout Inside Out 2, and one of the worst, undoubtedly, will be abandoning her friends to join the popular girls group just so she wouldn't, in quotes, be alone in high school. The problem is, surely Riley herself knows that the decision she made was very wrong, but as she was being guided entirely by emotions, and in this case, by the new emotions only, Riley ended up doing it anyway. And knowing that she's doing something wrong, we can perfectly say that Riley will experience an internal conflict between what the emotions think is best to do and what the right thing to do is. This situation is exactly the perfect formula to further increase the internal suffering that Riley will go through for clearly making decisions that hurt people she cares about, just to be part of a group of girls she doesn't even have an affinity with. Or worse, who may not even like her for real, but maybe just want to hang out with the best hockey player on the team. So, for sure, Riley will suffer a lot, especially after she realizes how selfish her actions were and how she may have lost true friends because of such petty and cruel reasons. Lack of self-love. But not everyone will suffer from Riley's behavior, as the girl will be doing exactly what the new emotions, or at least part of them, want. Especially anxiety and envy will be the two emotions that will have the most influence on the girl to take these actions that sooner or later will leave her alone and distressed. And one of the things we can see that envy desires most is to be in the company of the popular girl from Riley's new school, whatever it takes. This reveals another problem that is totally related to the inevitable emergence of the distress emotion in Riley's mind: the lack of self-love. People with low self-esteem always seek to mirror themselves and, in a way, be alongside those they consider their references, which ends up harming their own emotional development. And basically, that's what we see Envy doing every time she gets so excited when the popular girl just talks to her briefly. This means that with the absence of joy and the other emotions, Riley's feeling of self-love will decrease a lot, making the girl's life even more chaotic in this year of various drastic changes and apparently of various wrong decisions. Depressed. All of this combined can make Riley feel more and more the sensation of distress growing inside her mind in such a way that her brain might very well think it's so big that this is the moment to create a specific emotion to represent all this, which would be distress, increasing the number of emotions to 10. Or who knows, it might even be possible that sadness and anxiety, even against their wills, would be merged by Riley's mind to form distress as a new emotion from the two, reducing the number of emotions to 8. The fact is, when this happens, Riley will officially have an emotion whose sole purpose will be to make Riley feel terrible sensations, like apprehension and negativity. And inevitably, Riley would feel less and less disposed to do everything she needs, and she would become a depressed and unmotivated person even to play the hockey she loves so much. The worst of all is that the only person who can really help Riley would be Riley herself. This is because psychology states that the best remedy for someone who feels depressed is motivation. Contrary to what many people imagine, motivation is not something that comes from outside. It comes solely from our own mind, which makes us the only ones capable of making ourselves feel like achieving great feats and accomplishments. And at some point in Inside Out 2, after the old emotions return to Riley's mind, our protagonist may regain her spirit of competitiveness and victory. With the old emotions back in their original place, Riley's mind, even with the presence of distress, will once again become balanced, allowing her to make decisions that can benefit not only her, but also all the people she cares about and who care about her, which would make loneliness go away, as well as all the suffering and the feeling of not being able to sleep well. There's even a theory created by the profile Filmograph Erpby on IMDb, which was sent by our subscriber Griffin Schmidt, that on her journey, the old emotions would encounter the courage emotion and that it could help them return to their original place and prevent a figure from dominating Riley's consciousness, which could be distress itself. In any case, we know that at the end of Inside Out 2, Riley will have contact with her true friends again and will no longer feel so bad and depressed about everything she believes she had to do to feel part of a group, which maybe she shouldn't even be a part of. And at that moment, she would free herself from all bad feelings and sensations, and sadness and anxiety would once again be separate and unique emotions, restoring normality in Riley's life, which would follow its course normally. In this way, the same emotion that should never have existed in Riley's mind will cease to exist, and thus, Riley will be able to live making the best decisions for her life, which will still be very long. Surely one of the best things in life is to have fun and watch cool videos, so we're leaving 2 options for you to choose and watch now. Thanks!